Have you ever had a moment so still, so utterly silent, that the world itself seemed to hold its breath? For Elias Vance, that moment arrived not with a bang, but with the absence of one. It was the day the rain stopped falling. Not in a meteorological sense. The dark clouds still gathered, the air still hung thick with the promise of a storm. But the drops themselves ceased to reach the earth. They simply hung there, a billion glistening diamonds suspended in the sky, turning the world into a blurred, shimmering snow globe. The gentle percussion that had scored Elias' entire life was replaced by a silence so profound it felt like a physical pressure against his eardrums. From his small apartment window, Elias watched the impossible tableau. A child across the street reached up, standing on tiptoe to gently bob a single motionless raindrop on her fingertip. It was beautiful, and it was utterly terrifying. This was the first hook, the first fracture in the reality he knew. The initial mystery wasn't just the suspended rain, it was the reaction, or lack thereof. People glanced up, shrugged, and went about their days. A man neatly sidestepped a hovering puddle on the sidewalk as if it were a permanent fixture. No panic, no news vans, just quiet, bewildered acceptance. Elias alone felt the cold dread coiling in his stomach. Why was he the only one truly seeing this? If you're feeling that same chill of unease, that need to unravel the truth alongside Elias, then you belong here with us. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have pressed that bell icon, because this mystery is only just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Driven by a compulsion he couldn't name, Elias left his apartment, moving through the silent, jeweled streets. The air was thick and humid, yet dry to the touch. This was the second hook. The world was obeying new, unknown laws of physics, and he was seemingly the sole witness to the violation. His quest for answers led him to the city library, a cavernous temple of old knowledge, where he hoped to find some precedent, some forgotten footnote in a physics text that could explain the day's phenomenon. But the third, more personal hook awaited him there. As he pulled a heavy volume on atmospheric science from the shelf, a faded sepia-toned photograph fluttered to the floor. It was a picture of a man standing proudly before a complex array of brass instruments and coils. A man who was the spitting image of Elias himself, though the photo was dated 1898. Scrawled on the back in elegant script were the words, "The world is an echo. Find the source." The fourth and most profound hook struck him as he fled the library, the mysterious photograph clutched in his hand. The suspended rain began to move again, but not downward. In a silent reverse torrent, every droplet began to rise, defying gravity as they streamed back towards the heavens, leaving the city stunned and soaking wet in their wake. For Elias, this was the final confirmation. This wasn't a natural event. It was a correction, a system rebooting. The photograph burned a hole in his pocket, and the words echoed in his mind. He knew, with a certainty that chilled his blood, that the man in the photo was his great-grandfather, a brilliant, ostracized physicist who had supposedly died chasing a theory he called temporal recursion. The climax arrived in the musty attic of his family's abandoned estate, buried under decades of dust and regret. There, he found his great-grandfather's journals, and the final terrifying pieces of the puzzle slid into place. The theory postulated that time was not a river, but a record, a fixed loop that could be experienced but not changed. His great-grandfather had refused to believe it. He had built a device, a resonance engine, designed to shatter the loop and grant true free will. He had succeeded on the day he vanished. The suspended rain, the glitches, they weren't the problem. They were the symptoms of a timeline healing itself, fighting against the fracture his ancestor had created. The world everyone knew was the echo, a stable, repeating simulation built over a broken original. Elias's own existence, his unique perception of the glitches, was a genetic legacy. He was the key his great-grandfather had left behind, a failsafe woven into the code of the echo itself. The final twist was not a choice, but a revelation. Elias wasn't there to fix the machine or destroy it. The journals revealed he already had. The device required a conscious anchor within the echo to hold the new reality open. His great-grandfather had sacrificed himself to become that anchor a century ago. His consciousness stretched across time to maintain the instability that was true freedom. But the anchor was failing. Elias felt the pull, a psychic gravity trying to assimilate him into the role, to take his great-grandfather's place and forever be the lonely shepherd of a broken timeline. The rain had stopped falling because the program was glitching, and he was the update. The world could remain in its fragile, free state, but only if he surrendered to the machine, becoming a permanent, silent god in the attic, forever holding the door to a prison he had opened himself. He looked out the grimy window. Below, people laughed, utterly unaware their entire existence was a beautiful, fragile argument between two madmen. The reflection that stared back at him from the glass was his own. But for a fleeting second, the eyes were those of the man from the photograph, old and infinitely tired. The echo was calling its source home. And so, dear listener, the greatest mysteries are not about what is out there, but what we are willing to become in here. If you've ever wondered what price you'd pay for truth, share this story with a friend and discuss what you would do in Elias's place. And for more tales that explore the shadows at the edge of reality, subscribe to the channel. The next story might just change the way you see everything.